Now, the NRA and certain portions of American gun owners believe that mass shootings could be stopped if only there was somebody there that was armed and trained to take down that mass shooter. That they believe that there is no way to stop bad guys from getting guns, despite countries that have, for the most part, eliminated the kinds of shootings we see in America on a daily basis, and that only if we had good people with guns, we could counteract the bad people. In fact, this is Wayne LaPierre saying just that at CPAC yesterday.
To stop a bad guy with a gun, it takes a good guy with a gun.
See, to stop a bad guy with a gun, you need a good guy with a gun. Okay. That means we've got to arm all the good Americans and teachers. Not all the teachers, 20% of the teachers who are proficient with a firearm. And we need to train them in some cases, or in many cases, with school shootings to kill their own students. Wonderful. I'm sure that's what teachers got into the teaching profession to do, so they can, get their giant revolver or whatever and figure out students, whichever student they're going to have to eventually murder to protect the rest of the classroom. Again, that's wonderful, right? So this solution, right, is being put forward now by the President of the United States. In fact, he says that, hey, look, we need to arm teachers. We need to we need to have more security guards. We need to harden our schools. That's NRA talk for more guns, right? Well, if only Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School had a good guy with a gun, then maybe this all could have been avoided. That's the line, right? Oh, what's that? There was one? Apparently, security videos showed that there was a school resource officer at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, and his name was Scott Peterson. Now, Scott Peterson has since resigned from that position, but security camera footage shows that he was armed in uniform on the school campus at the time when the shooting started. In fact, the bullets were flying for probably about a good 4 to 6 minutes, and he didn't do anything. In fact, this is I'm going to go to a quote here from Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel. Now, he told reporters on Thursday that what I saw was a deputy arrive at the west side of Building 12, take up a position, and then just he never went in. So, he was in position, and he could have stopped the shooting, but didn't happen. Now, in case you're not aware, a school resource officer is there to provide security on campus in case something like this actually happens. That's why they're armed. That's why they have a gun. But for whatever reason, Scott Peterson could not do this. He failed at his job. Now, you could call him a coward, and that's fine if you want to. For sure, there was actually a lot braver people during that shooting. For example, the teachers that were sheltering their students, that coach that pushed students out of the way and was killed tragically. But maybe the lesson that we can take from this is that entrusting school officials, arming them to kill their students, maybe that's not the right way to go. Now, there's another argument, of course, is that, well, if you have people that are armed in school, if you arm the teachers, you have the school resource officers, which, again, that's what they had. Well, the students, the mass shooter, the crazy person, they're going to somehow have enough logical sense to stay away from these schools. Now, again, they're saying, oh, it's the mental health. It's the mental health. That's not true. People in America are no more mentally ill than in Canada or the UK, Japan, South Korea, wherever, right? It's just that they do more mass shootings because we have more guns. So, and actually, no, it's not the mentally ill people who are doing this necessarily, or they're not necessarily doing it because they are mentally ill. But it's funny that they use that argument that, well, these people, they're mentally ill, they're getting their hands on guns, and they're going up and shooting the schools. And if only we had somebody there with a gun, that would be a deterrent to these mass shooters, because then they would have the logical thought process of, ooh, I can't go there because someone will shoot back at me. No, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. There's no logic there, right? And Again, another reason that it's not a deterrent is that look at the case of Parkland. The shooter knew there was an armed resource officer because he had been to school there. That was his school. So, look, not a deterrent. He went in there anyway. And look, most mass shooters usually go in there without any thoughts to their own safety. I think once you cross that line of, I'm going to go shoot up a school, you generally no longer care about whether or not you're going to make it out alive. And that's generally what happens. I mean, look, most mass shooters, they're either killed during this thing with the confrontation from police, or they're captured by police, or they end up turning the guns on themselves. So it kind of shoots a hole in that theory as well. And so what does the idea of turning the school into a shooting gallery actually accomplish? It really doesn't. And besides, another point in the resource officer, had he went in, there's no guarantee that he could have stopped the shooter. Maybe there is a chance that he could have stumbled upon the shooter. He was unawares and then ended up taking him out. Or the opposite could happen. Again, when you're in that situation, it's very, very fluid. It's hard to determine where the outcome is going to be. So there's just as much of a chance that that resource officer could have been caught unawares, shot, killed, and now the gunman has a second weapon in which to fire on students. So we don't know. But within that ambiguity, we see one answer. It's painfully obvious that this does not work. More guns in schools is not an effective solution, but it relies on the fantasy that people will suddenly become heroes in dangerous situations. Sure, it does happen. Yes, there are good guys with guns that do stop shooters in some circumstances. Yeah, of course. That is statistically possible. And you can go and find stories where that happened. It gets hyped up in conservative media all the time. However, I think it's a fairly small number of that situation happening, and far more of a situation of somebody accidentally shooting themselves. There's a teacher that was allowed to carry in schools that shot herself in the leg on accident. And thank goodness she's alive. Obviously, it didn't kill her, but that's the kind of stuff that's more likely to happen. Accidents. Accidental shootings. And I don't have the numbers, but there are a lot of accidental shootings in America. Far more there than there are in other countries that have less guns. So, but nonetheless, people believe in that fantasy. They believe that they can be the hero. I understand. I get where it's coming from. I understand that you want to have people to protect your kids, but statistically, it just does not happen very often. And because of that fantasy, we end up seeing, at least this year, 18 school shootings total so far. And we're hardly into 2018. But look, the reason that the NRA peddles this fantasy to people is they want more guns in schools. Not so they can protect your kids. No. It's when you have more guns in school, when you arm teachers, well, where are they going to get those guns? They're going to get the guns from the gun manufacturers. It's to sell more guns, it's to make more money. That's what their entire purpose is to sell more guns to make more profit for their shareholders. That's what that's about. The NRA is not there to represent you. It represents the gun manufacturers who profit off the sale of more guns. When you have more guns, as we do, you get more death. You get more death, you get more fear. More fear leads to more guns. It is a vicious cycle, and we are the only ones that seem to be trapped in it consistently. And I don't know how we're ever going to break out of that. But I hope one day we do. But for the NRA, man, look, you got to understand what they're about. They're not about you anymore. There was a time when they used to be concerned about safety, when they actually tried to represent gun owners, but that was before the money. That was before they sold out to become nothing more than a front for gun manufacturers. Is blood money. And they're more than happy to sacrifice your kids if it means a bigger bottom line. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.